Well, hello there. It's been a while. And you're probably wondering who the hell is this last talking. My name's Shalane. I am also known as Shay. And this is my podcast, but I haven't been here a while. I'm so sorry. Look, I'll be honest with you. I sound nasally now. It's because my hay fever. And I just did a sneezing fit before I started recording, so I might sound a little blocked. I do apologize. I said I was going to be more committed to this podcast, but due to a lot of things like work, and I won't lie to you, I've been very tired due to work, and I had been just taking a break from things. So I've even taken a break from streaming, so I'm trying to live a little bit more outside, and be more family, and trying to do more things and live a little bit more. So, but I have been listening to a lot of podcasts still, no matter what. I have still been listening to My Favorite Murder, which is one of my all times. I'll tell you, the only few podcasts I listen to, I will list them out here because I don't think I've ever shared who I listen to. So Table Manners with Jesse and Lenny Ware, they're my food podcast. Most recently I got into this podcast because of My Favorite Murder, which is one of my favorite podcasts. Ghosted by Roz Hernandez, The Guardian's Women's Football weekly podcast, Big Kick Energy. I've been dabbling in the Fast and Curious, so it's about Formula 1. Three players and a podcast, which is from Sky Sports. It's football again. I was listening to Scotland Yard Confidential. They were brilliant, really good at storytelling, of telling Scotland Yard police stories, but they have actually finished that series now, which I'm really sad. And that's really it. I was listening to another podcast. It was from Roz Hernandez. Now, this is weird. I listened to My Favorite Murder, Ghosted by Roz Hernandez, and the third podcast, which I'm going to find you. But I was listening to them, right? I listened to them when I'm falling to sleep for snooze. Oh, there we go. 2 girls on 1 ghost, I believe that's it. Yeah, I listen to them. Like, I know it's weird. It's weird. Yes, it's the 2 girls, 1 ghost. That's them. I started listening to them from the very start of their podcast, so I have a long way to go because they had the podcast a long time ago, and I'm currently listening to the mini episodes of My Favorite Murder. I do want to listen to the full episodes. I want to try to do that when I'm walking. As grim that sounds, but anyway, I did read a book, and I just finished it today. It's called Kilkenny Deadly Years in Ireland. It's the place Kilkenny. I was there in May, first time there since I was a kiddo, I think, and I picked up the book because I broke my phone. I'm not having great luck with phones this year, that's all I'm going to say. And yeah, it's very interesting, especially the last chapters of stories. The stories are from like murders, trials, executions. Yeah, we liked hanging people. And I would love to see if there was a book about Cork, because that's where I'm from. I would have to find one. But I will link this book, Kilkenny's Deadly Years, written by Donal Cadogan. I probably butchered his surname. But I will link that book. And I will also link a book to here. Because the story I'm going to be talking about is... It's a mystery one, and there was a lot of people accused for this, and there was a big court case about this, and unfortunately it's not resolved. It's still unsolved, and it is the story of Larry Griffin, the postman, that disappeared on Christmas Day. Let's get into it. Right, let's begin. So if you're not aware, there's a place called Stradbally. It is in Laois, and it's mostly well known here in Ireland for festivals. It's a festival kind of county because the amount of land they have, it's huge. So it'd be like Glastonbury, like if you know that, or Coachella if you're an American. So like big festival we have every year there now. It's called Electric Picnic. I haven't gone to any of them. Never experienced a festival, but one day I'll get there. So Larry Griffin was a postman in Kilmacthomas in County Waterford. He was born in 1880. He was a bombardier in the British Army from 1899 to 1907. He was serving in the British India. Griffin rejoined the army during World War I and was dismissed on the 3rd of June in 1916 due to injuries. His arm was permanently crippled, part of his ear was missing, and he also lost many of his teeth. In 1818, he received both the British War Medal and Victory Medal in recognising his service. Fun fact, I believe my great-great-grandfather also has a Medal of War, the British War Medal, but someone in my family have lost that medal, so I cannot confirm if it's true. He was in the Royal Navy, and that's all. And funny enough, he turned in to become a postman too, just like Larry Griffin. This is strange. Anyway, back to the story. Sorry, that was a little distraction. So he married a local woman called Mary Fitzgerald in 1907. In 1929, he and his wife, along with their 2 out of 3 surviving children, lived in Kilmacthomas in a small village in Ireland on the southeast. Larry became a postman. After he released from the army and needed to provide for his family. His postal round included the village of Stradbally, which was approximately 8 miles from Kilmacthomas. Griffin went to church on Christmas Day in 1929, handing out presents to his neighbours' children, then left about midday on his post office issue bicycle to deliver mail in Stradbally. Yes, they delivered post on Christmas Day. That would never happen now because people were protest about that they had to work. Yeah, I would say they would, if I'm honest. So on the local tradition, many residents who have the postman, they would either donate money to him or hospitality. My family still follows those practices. We give a couple of extra bob to the postman. Larry was asked for dinner in 2 homes he visited, and alcohol was provided in many of the others. Now, once he finished his deliveries, he went to the post office as usual, but he didn't come home that night. Mary presumed that he had too much to drink and opted to sleep at a friend's place rather than taking the risk of riding very intoxicated on a bike, which would have been sensible, right? But the next morning at 7:30 a.m. on St. Stephen's Day, a local man going along the road between Stradbally and Kilmacthomas noticed a postman's bicycle lying on the road, pointing towards the latter. It had seemed being carefully placed there, but there was no trace of Griffin. So, where did he go? That man then alerted the Gardaí, and an investigation was launched, led by Chief Superintendent Harry O'Mara of Waterford. He was assigned 2 superintendents, 2 detectives to assist him in the probe. Now, the first sign of something occurred was when a man called John Power. We're going to meet another John Power as well in this episode, so we will try not to confuse them both. I'm going to call him the older John Power. So the older John Power believed he saw Larry Griffin and a Gerda Edward Delena in the Whelan's public house via the back door at 6:30. Now, Power attended the gathering in the tavern and noticed a number of locals, including Ned Morrissey and James Fitzgerald, enjoying the facilities. Another witness called Lawrence O'Brien, providing a similar amount, identified people were illegally present in the pub during the pub lock-in. On December 26th, Gardaí from various stations and 100 people from the region gathered to search for Griffin. Postmen as well from Kilmac Thomas were also on hand to help with the search. The postman went to inspect Griffin's bicycle. They discovered that Griffin's empty mailbag, waterproof cover, dungarees and a cape were fastened to the carrier of his bike in a peculiar way, apparently, which the postman would avoid doing. Now, they did spend hours and days looking in areas of Kilmac Thomas and Stradbally, notably the marshals as well, on each side of the road where the bike was discovered. There was no trace of Griffin. People began to suspect that Griffin might have been too drunk and just walked into the bogs and sank and couldn't get out. However, the Gardaí did not believe this was accurate, prompting an inquiry to begin. On December 27th, Chief Superintendent Harry O'Mara from Waterford again decided to interview all of the Gardaí from Stradbally, including Sergeant Killan, Delia. I'm totally saying Delia surname wrong. I am sorry. I absolutely know I butchered it. Frawley, Murphy and Sullivan. All 5 stated Griffin was sober when they saw him. Other locals, on the other hand, stated that he was a bit jolly and intoxicated. Another local man stated that he was in Stradbally, Kilmacthomas route at 4 a.m. on Christmas Day and he did not see the bicycle. O'Mara suspected foul play. Father O'Shea, the priest from the adjacent village, advised O'Mara to interrogate 16-year-old young boy John Parrott, this is the younger boy I was mentioning, as the Gardaí in Stradbally were suppressing the true events. O'Mara interviewed Parrott the next day. Well, what did young John Parrott see? He was standing outside the front of the pub of Whelan's with 3 other guys quite some time in the evening, probably wanted to try to get in, try to have a sneaky pint. Well, they're only 16, they're not going to get in. But they did notice Griffin and Garda Delana outside the post office at 6:30. Now, Delana was pushing Griffin's bike. Griffin appeared to be drunk and was getting sick. So the two rounded a corner, neither of them returned an hour, and after Power's clan split, the 3 men accompanied Power confirmed his account. Now, Delana was questioned about what Power said, and Delana confirmed that meeting Griffin was true, but he claimed to have walked with him about 50 yards along Kilmac Thomas Road. He repeated that Griffin was not drunk, and when he was asked he had reported it before, he stated he didn't think it was important. Delia also have left Larry. He returned to the town centre to meet Sissy Whelan, the daughter of the Whelans publican, whom he walked to Stradbally Cove and returned at 10 o'clock. At the time, it was prohibited for Irish bars to serve alcohol on Christmas Day and Good Friday. O'Mara felt Delana's inconsistent statements were an attempt to conceal unlawful drinking. Throughout January, O'Mara pieced together the events of Christmas Day using both new witnesses and more comprehensive testimony from previous witnesses. Period. Obviously, my thoughts already from it is the 5 Gardaí did not want to be known that they were having a private drinking session, while knowing it was prohibited and unlawfully to drink on a holy day. 2, they lied about Griffin not drinking, while others saying that he's absolutely wasted. And 3, were any of them actually on duty while they were drinking? Were they in uniform? Because I was thinking about this, it's like, these 5 guards are here, they're not on duty, who's in charge? Who are these the only guards in Stradbally? There has to be more, right? Or if not, how were they going to think that they were going to get away with being intoxicated, being on duty? If anything seriously happened, then they weren't in the right condition to do it. Just saying. Now, Garda O'Mara was positive with these 5 guards were implicated in the disappearance. He informed Owen O'Duffy, the chief commissioner of Garda Síochána. He also alleged that Garda, Delena and Murphy are influencing people to make false statements and visiting those who did make statements to make sure to know what they said. Yeah, not good. Red flag. By the end of January, all Stradbally Gardaí were transferred to Dublin and suspended on duty of half pay. O'Mara expected them to communicate about the case, so he secured an order to intercept their mail. Yeah, he was certain. Now, 2 villagers did say that Patrick Whelan, the publican at Whelan's, informed them that Larry had been in a pub on Christmas night. Whelan then went and told Griffin's wife and the Gardaí that Larry had not attended the pub on Christmas Day. And no one else. But the 2 villagers claimed, yes, we know we were there and we were drinking with your daughter Chrissy, so you can't be lying. Whelan then denied everything. However, they had not noticed that Larry had been there because they were in the kitchen than the living area, which I presume this was in the back of the house, not in the actual physical pub, maybe. I'm trying to figure that out, the layout of the whole house was, but anyway. On the January 23rd in 1930, 2 local men were interviewed in the Garda station, Jim Fitzgerald and Thomas Corbett, both workers in labour. On Christmas Day, Fitzgerald and Corbett and 2 others entered Whelan's through the rear gate in the back. They entered the kitchen and were offered beverages by Sissy Whelan. Fitzgerald went out in the yard and looked through the bar window to see Gerda, Delena and Murphy, Chrissy and Whelan and others inside, so he entered the bar. Griffin lost some money at some point. Ned Morrissey snatched it up and kept it for himself, which then Griffin demanded his money back. Morrissey purposely tripped him and caused him to fall and smash his skull on the stove, which then killed him. Now, this is what they're saying, right? Whelan was concerned that Griffin's death would ruin him and his firm. Morrissey proposed they would dispose of Larry's remains and conceal his death. Fitzgerald, Gerda, Delena and Murphy said that the Whelan family, Thomas Cashin, head teacher of the local national school, and 4 others, Ned Dumphy, Jack Galvin, George and Patrick Cummins, were all present throughout that chat. Cashin, Morrissey, George Cummins and Patrick Whelan loaded the Griffin's body into Cashin's car, the sole vehicle in the village, and drove away. Delena and Murphy took Larry's bicycle and promised to depose it somewhere along the 5 Cross Road. Fitzgerald didn't know where to dispose the body, but he assumed that it was meant to drop it in a mine shaft. Fitzgerald stated that was rejected by everyone, said that he was present in the bar. Fitzgerald said to stay with the Gardaí since he was terrified to return home. He was placed under protective custody in Watford, but once Corbett admitted that he and Fitzgerald had gone to Whelan's on Christmas Day, he had told a completely different account about what transpired next. He said that they were not admitted to Whelan's and instead went to O'Reilly's, another pub in the area, and then resided to the hall playing cards, where he claimed to have clashed with another guy. While it was widely agreed that a fight had happened at the card game, remainder of Corbett's story, other witnesses have particularly claimed it was true. So when the Gardaí were gathering the evidence, this stove, they took that, they removed everything from the Gardaí's station, the wooden benches, ladies' stockings, a coal scuttle, which I presume that's the thing that they used to poke the fire. What do we call it? A fire poker. I don't actually know what a scuttle is. Which apparently had bloodstains on it. Other items were taken from the house as well of Thomas Cashin, Ned Morrissey, George Cummins, and Thomas Cashin's car was also taken. They searched for the mines and caves during the time, which was used for copper mining from 1827 to 1877, which was popular at the time. They couldn't send a diver down to any of the mines because it was too risky. On January 24th, Gardaí arrested Thomas Cashin, Ned Morrissey. They charged with murder, disposing a body which intends to obstruct a coroner's inquest, and taking away a post bag and postman's cap, which was the property of the Postmaster General. Then on January 26th, Patrick Whelan, George Cummins and Patrick Cunningham was arrested and charged. This was followed by the arrest of Bridget Whelan, her daughter and son, Nora and James. All 8 were held in Waterford. Was in custody. Now, following that, everyone was arrested, except, wait, on the 31st of January, they decided, we'll wait a few days. 3rd of February, Gerda, Delena and Murphy were arrested and charged also. Then came the court proceedings. On February 7th, a preliminary hearing was held in Waterford Courthouse, where the prosecution had to show that there was a significant evidence to justify trying the defendants before the jury. With the ever-changing witness narrative and a lack of hard evidence, the prosecution's case was to lean heavily on James Fitzgerald's testimony. However, when Fitzgerald was called to give evidence, he told a different story to the one he was given. He had given to the Gardaí. Now, Fitzgerald, Thomas, Corbett, and 2 other men were outside Whelan's that had drink handed out to them. Following that, he went on to Riley's pub and went to play cards. He then went to Whelan's and stood outside for a while before going home. And when the prosecuting barrister challenged him about the difference of his statement and currency testimony, he said he may have told some lies in it. When he questioned further, he said he could not say which parts were true and which were lies. The judge questioned him not to go further after that. On February 14th, the prisoners were then again brought to court. The 2 in Kilmac villagers that told those statements told in court that Patrick Whelan had told them that Larry had been in the pub on Christmas night. So the pathologist gave evidence as well, saying that the items were taken from various places, but only ones which he was certain that had human blood on them were sanitary items belonging to the young women in the Whelan household. The judge gave the prosecution another week to make a case, and the defendants were apprehended in custody. On 21st of February, Mrs. Frawley gave evidence saying that the Gardaí, Delena and drunken Larry Griffin had been in her house on Christmas Day, and that Gerda Delena had asked her not to say that she had seen him with Larry on that day. Another witness said that he had seen Gerda Delena and Larry walk around the corner at Whelan's. Further reprehended another week was granted. May 1st, no new evidence was produced, but the prosecution insisted that they were close finding Griffin's body. The defendants were apprehended again for another week in prison. On 7th of March, the prosecuting counsel said that the further inquiries were to be made, but he was now asking for the charges to be withdrawn. Defendants were released and an outburst of cheering from friends and supporters. Charges were never reinstated and the case was never went to trial again. Now, what happened after that? Well, the family of the Griffins, a fundraiser was produced, and about a good amount of money was raised for them, about €200, or £200, and we should say back then £200, and that was all due to people from the post office, employees around Ireland helped contribute that money, and Mary Griffin unfortunately passed away in 1958 and was buried in the Griffin's family plot. Now, she also mentioned Larry is memorialised on her headstone as well, because, she really loved him, and, she was left with 2 kids on her own. In February 1930, Tommy Corbett's lawyer was sent a summarise of the 4 Gardaí who questioned him, seeking damages for false imprisonment, assault and threats to murder. The case was heard in December 1930. It was stated that the Gardaí tried to bribe him to say he was in Whelan's pub on Christmas night. When he refused, he then threatened to murder him. Corbett alleged that the Gardaí drove him to the neighbouring cliffs and threatened to toss him into the sea, and one of them had a gun in his mouth and threatened that they would shoot him. The defendants denied the charges, but the jury found that Corbett's favour, and he was given £500 of damages and £500 of expenses. All Gardaí concerned chose to resign rather than be dismissed. They are now jobless and unable to pay Corbett the £1,000 that they were told. So they began discussing what they could do. Corbett's solicitor settled his claims for £125 and the condition that he had no further involvement with the former Gardaí. This prompted to massive celebrations in Stradbally, with Thomas Cashin taking Corbett and his wife to Whelan's to celebrate. The Cunninghams and the former ex-defendants visited Corbett's that night, bringing with them whiskey and stout. On July 1930, the Whelan family received £1,740 in damage from Waterford News Limited because of their newspaper. The Evening News published a piece of Larry Griffin's abduction on February 16, 1913, which they were strongly implicated from the case, and later that year they were awarded damages by the Cork Examiner for a similar piece. At that as well, the Griffins' disappearance, Whelans were in arrears with their landlord, and they had successfully sued by one of their suppliers for non-payments of product. They were then able to keep the business going with the proceeds from several libel actions they had won, and they had a loan from Thomas Cashin. Patrick Whelan died in 1946, while his wife Bridget died in 1961. His son James inherited the pub, and after his father died in 1997, James took it on, another James. He still operates it today. Sissy died in 2004, and Nora died in 1987. Jim Fitzgerald returned to Stradbally in the Garda car after his court appearance on February 7th, following the collapse of the prosecution case, and stated that he was afraid. He had been threatened numerous times, he couldn't find work, but he managed to find a job and was hired by a farmer in Galway. And Fitzgerald departed Stradbally in March 1930. Fitzgerald died at home for the aged poor in Waterford in 1961. Thomas Cashin had been the head teacher of Ballyleanin National School for several years. Inspectors reported of his job over proceedings 4 years granted him as ineffective. He was lacked in the Irish language certificate and failed the examination in 1924, 1925, 1926 and wait for 1928, and did not appear for the exams in 1927 or 1929. In May 1928, he was warned that he could face serious consequences for he did not improve. Well, he never did, but he did die in 1976. And then on January 27th, January 27th. No, not January. Oh my god, December. On December 20. Oh my god, December 27th. Yeah. 2019, a memorial plaque is in tribute of Larry Griffin, which was unrevealed at the local post office in Kilmacthomas. This was organised by An Post and with members of his family attending. Birdie Griffin, the daughter-in-law of Larry Griffin, with her son Willie Griffin, unrevealed it. And that is the story of Larry Griffin. Ta-da! And that's the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Really unfortunate story of Larry Griffin. Not solved for his family and to his current family still. You know, they still have hope for his body skulls to be found. I would love to know what happened to him. Like, he just disappeared. Without a mention. And that's the thing, you know, actually I was thinking about this recently. You know, there were every day now here in Ireland, you can go onto Facebook and there's a Facebook page saying that a young person's missing mostly. But like, they're kind of going back to cold cases of missing people in Ireland, and the amount of people that have been missing for a long time here, it's really sad. And really upsetting for the families. You know, they just decided to disappear, and we don't know what happened to them. And that really, like, there was a case in Cork that this young college student went missing, and unfortunately it didn't end well. They did find him. He did die. I think, if I remember, I could be wrong, he jumped over a wall and he thought the wall height was going to be same level, but it actually wasn't, and he actually fell fairly far down and he hit his head off the wall and he died from getting head wounds. And that was around Christmas, because I think he went missing. It was after like a stag, or not stag, those 12 pubs, and I just always remember that. Which is really, really sad, you know, and I always feel sorry for the families, especially because, you know, they're always the one left missing them. The guards just move on to the next case, and same with the media, and they're stuck on that time that they can't really move on with their life without thinking where that person went, which is really upsetting. So I will link, there's a website called the Missing, just Missing, it's www.Missing.ie, and it's just going to share the people who are missing currently in Ireland. And it's really, I'm just looking at it now, and it doesn't matter what gender or race or age, it is all different. Oh my god, like, yeah, there's a woman from Segal missing. There's a 17-year-old boy missing in Waterford. It's all different ages, no matter what, as well. So if you want to have a look, and if you do, if you're lucky and if you've seen them, please report it into the Gardaí, for their family's sake. I really, my heart goes out to the families mostly. But thank you for listening, and I will hope to be back soon with another episode. I have kind of changed dramatically the idea of the podcast. It will be mostly true crime and sports, a different combination really, but that's it really. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you all soon.